It's time for Fishing with Son of a Hillbilly featuring Scott Jackson. Get your rods and your reels out as we're going fishing. Them catfish, crappies, and them dang sunfish ain't gonna catch themselves. On this podcast, you will receive the latest gear reviews, interviews with other anglers, great fishing techniques, and much more. Well, what do you know? It's time for a show. Here's Scott Jackson.
Well, howdy everyone, and welcome to Fishing with Son of a Hillbilly. I'm your host, Scott E. Jackson, and I'm here to talk about the wonderful, incredible trip that my brother and I had. This is episode number 4. On my last episode number 3, I was talking with my brother Ron, and we were planning a fishing trip. And I knew it was going to be on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota, but I really had no freaking idea where I was going to be at that time. So I'm going to follow up and tell you how everything went. It turned out to be a really good trip. At first we thought, we're not going to do so well. But you know how things change. You have to keep your thinking cap on and look for all the different opportunities that are available in that area. And we found some good ones. Let me first talk about the area that we were fishing at. He was staying at a little resort there. That's what the whole thing was. He was staying at the resort for 3 days, and I was just coming down for the last day of fishing to go out with him. We wanted to get some time together. I hadn't seen him since his wedding a few years back, and it would be a good time for us to get out, do some brother bonding, some fishing, some cussing, all that good stuff. Talk about all kinds of fun things that I'm not going to talk about on this show because they're a little more, what do you want to call it? A little more, more of a boy talk. Let's put it that way. That's all I'm going to say. And I don't want to have to censor any of that language. But let's go ahead and talk about the place. It was in a place called Fountain, Wisconsin, which is on the backwaters of the Mississippi River, which is the border between Minnesota and Wisconsin. The place he was staying at is called the Drift Inn, and I highly recommend it. It only has 3 cabins, so there's not a lot of places there to actually rent to stay, but they have a bit of a campground there, and I believe a boat goes with each cabin that you rent. Ron had his own boat, so he was so proud to show me this boat, and I'll talk more about it. But with this resort, they have a little bar area where you can go up and have parties and do different things. I'm looking at it here. It says the Drift Inn is located at Indian Creek near Fountain City, Wisconsin, a beautiful location on the scenic backwaters of the Mississippi. And they say their hours are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 3 p.m. to close. And it's Saturday, Sundays, and most holidays, 12 p.m. to close. And that they're talking about their resort, or the bar is what they're talking about, the Drift Inn bar. It's beautiful up there. I mean, just breathtakingly gorgeous. Nice waters. And my brother did mention that if you go on the weekends, you're going to encounter a lot of boat traffic up there. And the way he was cussing and all the different colorful metaphors that he was using about it and some of the people he encountered on that trip, I would definitely believe it's going to be very heavy traffic on the weekends. He said he'll never stay up there on the weekends again. He'll only stay during the week. And he's like myself. We have our weeks free where we can get out and fish so he can schedule what he wants to do. And, he was working the weekend or staying the weekend basically because of his sweetie, because his sweetie works during the week. He does his own, he's an entrepreneur, so he does his own work during the week. But she has a job. So she had the time off. And I guess when I was talking with her, she was telling me how she went to this place every summer with her parents. And it has so many fond memories. They know the whole area. Her and her brothers know that whole area very well. And they've caught lots and lots of fish up there. And it's a really nice place to stay. So they've been going there as an annual thing for many years. And I guess Ron went there earlier in the year. And he said that he knocked the fish out up there at that time. And that's what he was expecting this time, but it just didn't pan out that much for him. Even with all the advanced techniques that he knows and different things, it just wasn't hitting. And I have a feeling it's because the weather patterns, they had several cold fronts moving through at the time, and also the boat traffic, that's going to disturb a lot of stuff too, and definitely disturb Ron. So he's not going to be concentrating. He's going to be more worried about the wakes and everything else, and people getting close and getting frustrated. And he did have a few drawbacks out there. I won't go into what that is, but he had some malfunctions with some of his equipment. The motor didn't want to start and some other things, but I was his good luck charm. The minute I sat in that boat, he was telling me, Scott, we may not get this motor started. He has a little backup 9-horse, and he said we can lug along with it, but he wants to make sure he gets his big 60-horse. What he has now is his new boat is a Lund Sportsman, the 17-foot deep well bass fishing boat. I mean, it is a beauty. It has the steering wheel. It has depth finders. It has the bass seats on it. It can hold a lot of weight. It has 2 live wells built into it. This thing is a dream, and he got it for a song. He's like myself. We love doing wheeling and dealing and trading. And I guess he had a nice little 16-foot John boat tracker, one of those tracker boats. I would love to have that myself. And he was talking to he raises dogs. He raises the King Corso breed of dogs, and he sells them from time to time. And I guess he had a litter of pups up. Well, this one lady was interested in a litter of pups, but just said she had to sell her boat first in order to get the pups, or at least get the pups she wanted. So he said, well, sell a boat. What kind of boat are you talking about? Well, he said, well, I've got, this really nice Lund boat, and gave all the details and stuff. Said they want to sell the boat, have enough money left over to buy the dog, and get her husband another boat because he needs to have a boat to do his fishing in. Well, I said, well, just think of this. I've got a boat here. I'd be happy to trade you this boat and one of those pups for your boat. Well, they exchanged pictures and stuff, and he finally called her up to find out if she was interested or not. And she said, yeah, I showed the picture to the husband, and he thought it was a nice boat. And he said, well, I tell you, I've got another person interested in that pup, so if you don't let me know here real soon, like today, I'm going to have to defer this pup to this other person because, money talks, of course. The lady said, well, consider it done. He said, well, don't you have to talk to your husband? She said, nope, my name's on the title, and I want to go ahead and trade this boat for that dog and your boat. So Ron took it up there, and I guess the husband wasn't totally happy because, he thought the boat was worth a lot more than what the boat and the pup was, and it probably was. But a happy trade is happy between both. But to get back to my story with the fishing, that, even though he got this boat, any used boat, no matter what you get, you're going to have problems. You'll either have leaks, you'll have, motor issues, you'll have, peeling, you'll have other stuff. Whatever it is, it makes no difference. It's still a fabulous boat. But he couldn't get the big motor to start very much. I guess he got it to start a little bit on the first day, but it wouldn't start the rest of the time. Once I climbed in the boat, he started that boat up, and the look on his face was total amazement. He goes, it's going to run. I said, sounds good to me, Ron. Let's get going. And he kicked it in. It died. And he thought, oh, no. He hit it again, started right back up. It ran perfect the entire day. And boy, can that boat move with that big 60-horse on the back. Oh, my goodness. I haven't been in a boat with a motor that big in a long time. Got to remember, Son of a Hillbilly is mainly a bank fisherman. So most of my fishing is done from the bank. I have fished from a canoe here recently, but not much in the boats. I just haven't. So this was a lot of fun to be out in this boat. Well, we first started along that the shore by the Drift Inn. And let me give you the address of that Drift Inn just in case you're interested in it. I'll give you their phone number. No, I'm not getting any money or anything for this. I just think it's such a fabulous place. I want to tell you folks about it. The Drift Inn is located on S2945 Indian Creek Road in Fountain, Wisconsin. And their phone number is area code 608-9581. Again, 608-687-9581. I guess I left that 687 out. 608-687-9581. 608-687-9581. I guess I could repeat it enough for you folks. You should be able to get that. Go ahead and look it up on the web, www.driftinIC.com. So it's driftinnic.com. And they have some pictures there. They show some pictures of some huge catfish that's been caught up there. And I guess they rent those cabins all year round because people like to go deer hunting and other stuff up there. So that would definitely be a place that you all can visit and, get those cabins booked way in advance because they really sell out fast, just to let you know. Okay, that what makes that place so great, it's really, on the edge of the Upper Mississippi Wildlife and Fish Refuge. And there's a place called Merrick State Park, which is right next to it. Now, those are boundary waters, so if you're in Minnesota, your Minnesota license should work there. And, of course, if you're from Wisconsin, your Wisconsin license will work there. Since it's in those border waters, you got both sides. And what's nice, since it's on that border waters, you're going to follow some of the Wisconsin regulations, which means I could use 2 fishing poles if I want to. In the state of Minnesota, you're only allowed to use 1 line at a time. And I find that very frustrating because I like to use different baits to, on different poles. I'll use worms on one and I'll use liver on another, or some, cut bait or whatever on the other pole, or I'll be using worms on one and fishing artificial on the other. I've done that all these years until I moved to Minnesota, and I can't do that now. It's not that I'm trying to catch more fish, which I guess I am, but I'm trying to find out what the fish are hitting on. And once they start really, once I've narrowed that down, then I will fish that like crazy. Okay, enough of my ranting about Minnesota's 1 pole line law. So, that's a really great place to go. So, I took off early. I live up in Savage, Minnesota. So that's about a 2.5 hour drive. I thought it was more like 2 hours, but the GPS said it was 2.5 hours. Got up around 5, and I made it down there around 7:30. I thought I did pretty good time going down there, especially stopping getting some gas and a large iced tea on the way to keep myself awake. And when I arrived there, my brother Ron was standing out on the dock doing some casting, and he hadn't caught anything yet. And, we were talking a bit, doing a, hey, good to see you again type stuff. I loaded up my gear in his boat. We all climbed in. Of course, like I say, that boat started right up. Then he started giving me the bad news that the fish hadn't been hitting. Then he talked about all these boaters and stuff that I talked about earlier that were just being so rude. If you're out in a boat, spin out around the people. I mean, if the people are sitting there anchored and fishing, don't go right next to them and see what they're doing. You're going to disturb all the fish. You're going to throw a wake on them, all kinds of stuff. I encountered that type of thing from some skiers many, many years ago. I was fishing in a reservoir in Illinois. Clinton Lake is what the name of the reservoir was, probably obviously off of Bill Clinton, but Clinton Lake. And I'm anchored up fishing for crappie, and we're talking 40 feet of water because we're in the top of old submerged trees. This was a man-made reservoir for the nuclear power plant down there. And I had that boat tied up to those trees, and I had a water skier come by and swamp me, and it sunk that boat. I was with myself, one of my best friends, and his son. We were able to get all the gear saved except for the keys to my car, which I had sitting on the seat between my legs with a pair of toenail trimmers connected to them, cutting fishing line. And I learned a valuable lesson there about floating keychains and stuff like that. I had never, I was young. I didn't know. And I got swamped, lost the keys. I was able to hotwire the car. We were able to get everything home. But it's a bunch of lessons learned. So, get back to the story. He was mad because even though his boat is a large boat, it was rocking him around. It was disturbing the fishing. People were just pulling way too close and being way too rude. Please don't do that. So we started fishing along that bankway, moving out. The first thing he did was he said he wanted to go out as far as he was going to go and work his way back. And we wanted to first try for some catfish. That's what I was mainly interested in. Mississippi backwaters. I wanted to catch a big hog catfish up there. So I'm up there fishing with night crawlers and with some cut bait. So I'm using a bit of cut shad up there and using the night crawlers. Well, we get a little action on the night crawlers. Not much. We're getting little perch. Some of those striped yellow perch. And those perch were little bait-stealing SOBs. That's all I could say. They would sneak right in there and just take the bait. We're using Carolina rigs. Basically, my slip sinker rig that I'm talking about, people call them a Carolina rig, slip sinker rig, lots of different names. I'm using a bullet sinker with a small barrel swivel, about 18 inches a leader, and maybe a 10 or 8 Aberdeen hook on the end. Then I put the Nightcrawler on that. It's effective for all kinds of stuff. For the catfish rig, I was using a Kentucky rig, which is basically your 3-way barrel swivel with a 2-ounce sinker on one side, and then about an 18-inch leader, and I believe it was a 7/0 hook and a big chunk of cut bait on that. And I was using my extra heavy catfish rod. Didn't get any hits on that thing all day. Nothing. And Ron was fishing in a spot where they had picked up a large catfish earlier in the summer. Now, one thing, I don't know if Ron was thinking about, but, fish movements change between the different seasons. And this area where he was at still looked like a good spot to me for, fall fishing. But obviously, the temperature had changed, and the catfish were probably moving into the deeper channel area instead of in the more shallows where we were at. And we were getting more action with those perch. So we fished there for a while, and after about a half hour, if you're not getting what you're looking for, you need to move. It's that simple. I don't like to stay if I'm in a boat, I don't like to stay in a place more than 15, 20 minutes tops. If I'm not getting action of the species I'm looking for, I'm moving. That simple. Well, we moved over towards another spot where his wife had caught a huge walleye. I believe he said it was, a 7 or 8 pound walleye, which is pretty good size walleye for that area. And for her too. I guess they have it frozen, and I'm gonna have to teach him how to taxidermy that fish. My father and I used to own a taxidermy shop many years ago, and I've been to fish stuffing courses, so I really know how to do it. Just haven't done it, so I'll teach him that. But in that particular corner, we moved up there, and we caught a few bluegills, got a few more perch, and just a little bit of hits there, here and there, but no real action. And Ron was saying, "Hey, I think that curse is hitting us for this weekend, Scott. It just has been slow this whole weekend." I'm like, "Man, Ron, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad I'm up here talking with you, and we're having a fun time talking, but we're both wanting to catch some fish." We fished there for about 15, 20 minutes, and then we moved down a little closer to where there's some submerged trees. And Ron was all, thinking this is going to be a good spot. He went ahead and put on a slip bobber rig. He was looking with his depth finder, and the depth there was about 8 feet. So he set that slip bobber down to about 6, so it keeps the bait suspended about 2 foot off the bottom. And he's just using night crawlers. We didn't have any minnows at this time. And I went ahead and stayed with the Carolina rig, so I'm fishing straight on the bottom. And I was picking up a few perch. He wasn't getting much action, and I did pick up a bluegill. And the bluegill really wasn't big enough to keep. I've seen some people on YouTube keep bluegills that big, but they're just more trouble to clean than anything. So I just don't mess with them at that size. So we fished there for a bit more, and he started getting a little more frustrated and tired. So we moved down a little bit more from that area. So we're basically working up and down this canal that runs in front of the drift in. So with this, we move down a little bit more and fish and pick up a couple of more perch, and we're sitting here racking our brains of what to do. And we're talking about the different species and what he's caught up here, and he mentioned the word northern pike. Well, I got pretty excited. I said, "Hey, Ron, northern pike, they should be moving around this time of year, and I've never caught one before. That would be a lot of fun." He said, "Well, you got some baits you can use?" I said, "Well, I would think they're going to hit on a bass spinner bait." So he said, "Perfect, let's give it a try." So, this about half of the day or half of the fishing trip is over now. So we're moving down. He said there was one edge along there that had some sunken trees and stuff just before you got up to the drift in. It went between where the park, what do you call that, Merrick State Park's boat ramp was, and the drift in's docks. And that area looked pretty good. Had a bunch of hanging over trees and stuff and a little bit of moss, but not much. When we started to move that area and started to slowly drift, he had that depth finder on. I was looking at it, and there were fish everywhere. According to that depth finder, that's the first time I'd seen a depth finder quite like that one, where it actually gave images of the fish itself. Now, I know they have those things out there, and I know they're available, and I just picked one up. So, I got pretty enamored with the way that thing works. So when I pick up a boat here in the spring, I will be using that. But to get back to it, we're looking, and there's fish, large fish underneath us, And the depth there was about 12 feet, and those fish were hanging around 8 feet, between 6 and 8 feet. And I'm like, okay, I need to fish a little deeper. So what I did was I hung one line off of the edge of the boat, and I dropped it down to about 6 feet with a piece of cut bait on there just to see if I'd pick up some type of catfish or something. I thought maybe, some other species might eat it as well. And then I put on that bass spinner bait. It was a double willow leaf spinner bait with a white jig fingers on it. White head, edge, and jig fingers. And I believe it was quarter-ounce spinner bait. And I just start doing my normal bass casting. We're kind of drifting along, and I'm casting up into the shore, or close to the shore, and the weed beds up there, along tree branches and other places. Well, we fished for about 4 minutes. Then all of a sudden, I had made one cast real close to one of the trees and was pulling it in, and I felt something hit it. I thought, oh, man. And I could see something move really fast past the lure. I thought, darn, I missed it. And all of a sudden, it hit it again. I was like, what in the world's going after this thing? And I still didn't get the hook set. And I thought, darn, I got it within about 4 feet of the boat, and it hit it again. And this time I sunk it in. And I got myself about a 24-inch northern pike. Boy, was I delighted. And that was a nice little fight. That little guy was jumping all over the place. I got him in there, and I was delighted. We broke the curse of big fish. So 24 inches of any fish is big to me, even if it's a northern pike. So that got Ron excited, and he switched his bait to that similar lure. And we were working along, and just a little bit later, I picked up about I'd say 1.5 pound bass. And I knew it was a totally different bite, because when this thing hit, it felt like a bass, not like that northern pike. I got that bass in. It went into the live well with the northern pike, and, of course, our perch that we had. Working our way down a little bit more, I picked up a few more northern pikes. This was great. And we moved all the way down along that edge to the end. And I believe Ron had picked up a northern pike as well. So we were definitely doing really well on northern pikes. I think between the both of us, we caught about a half dozen northern pikes. And that was pretty good. We were really enjoying that. So we got a half dozen northern pikes. Now we worked our way back up. He took that boat, took it all the way up. We did another drift back down along that edge. And we're picking up more northern pikes. The front started to come in. And as soon as that front started to come in, and it got overcast because it was sunny before then, the fish just quit biting. It turned everything off. And we're like, wow, son of a gun. But we knew we needed to get ourselves in soon, because that sky looked really threatening. And we got ourselves all packed up, zipped up to the dock, unloaded my gear, and I was going to take all these fish up to the cleaning house, get them all cleaned up, and then put them in my cooler for transport back. And just as Ron said, he got up to the boat ramp. They pulled the truck up to put that boat out. It started to come down. He got that boat on that ramp in record time, or on that trailer in record time, whipped himself back up there, and was getting it all covered up so it wouldn't get soaked. It already was soaked, but he didn't want it to get any more wet than what it was. So he was having a fun time doing that while I was cleaning the fish and watching all the rain. And I was talking with his wife, Dee Dee, while we were doing that. And that's where I learned about her coming up all the time and how much she loved the area. And we talked about fishing and stuff. She's definitely one outdoors type of gal, and he's got himself a really nice wife there. And they make a good pair. They both love getting in the outdoors and fishing and having fun together. It's fabulous. So I got to keep the catch for the day. And Ron was telling me, and I believe this was true, I know he caught some fish, but he said that we did better that day than he did over those other 2 days. Makes no difference to me what, as long as we had fun, and if he felt like it was good, it's good. So I have to tell you, when you're fishing areas like that, and especially areas you've never been to before, you're trying to learn what you can, and you have to rely on someone who's been there, like my brother, and he's only been there one other time before, and he was relying on his wife for these different locations. The first time that he went up there, it was in his tracker boat, and I don't believe he had a depth finder to see what the depth was. And he has never really used depth finders before either, so he doesn't really know about a lot of topography. He has to look around at, like I usually do when I'm bank fishing. You have to look at the terrain in order to figure out where those fish are going to be at and think about what species you're going for. Our motto is, whatever bites the frickin' hook, that's what we want to catch. but you have to be a little more species specific and technique specific for what time of year it is, what the weather conditions are, and so forth. And with this particular fishing trip, we had to be flexible. We found out that our Carolina rigs and our basic worm rigs, which usually never fail us, and they didn't fail us if you think we did catch some perch. They did fail us on catching some catfish, so those catfish definitely weren't hitting, and we weren't in the right areas. I bet if we had the bait presentation in the right areas, we would have picked up some catfish, but we didn't. But northern pike worked just fine, and a nice bass, too. I was very delighted with the bass. So we caught enough to make a really good day out of the whole thing. A lot of great memories, a lot of good times. I really enjoyed fishing with my brother, and we have more adventures coming in the future to tell you about. Lots of other stuff. We're going to be getting together and doing some more fishing and some more podcasts, and he's going to give you some more of his techniques and ideas of how he does stuff. So this is all a good thing, and it should be able to teach you guys all kinds of stuff about fishing, and you can learn more. So remember, be flexible with your fishing. You have to change techniques if the fish aren't biting. You need to get out there and try. I always start with night crawlers. It's that simple. I like to test them out. Now, if I get into an area where the small bluegills are just tearing those night crawlers up and you can't get any time to catch anything else, then I have to change the bait or change the presentation. But usually I change the bait. And then I'll go to some type of lure, or I'll go to a liver, or I'll go to a plunge bait, or I'll go to something that I know the bluegills won't touch, but the other species I'm fishing for will. If I'm fishing for catfish, then I go to the liver, I go to the plunge bait, or I go to cut bait. If I'm fishing for bass, I'll probably go straight to lures, and my number one lure for bass is going to be your spinner bait, just like I was fishing for those northern pike with. I know how to work them, I know how to jig them. I really know those things inside and out. I love crankbaits, but with weeds and stuff, they are a pain in the biscuits. To where my spinner bait, it'll go through the weeds. It picks up a little moss from time to time, but otherwise it's a really good bait to go. And that's why we went with it. We thought the northern pikes would hit, and it did. The vibration and sound and the flash, because that water was kind of murky. It's Mississippi backwater stuff. It's not going to be very clear. But it was clear enough that I could see the lure down probably about a foot. Much further than that, I could barely make it out, if any at all. But those blades were silver, and they were flashing. And that would definitely attract them. We tried some lily pad areas that were on the other side from where we were fishing. It was shallower, didn't get a hit. Even tried doing the bobber and split shot and some small night crawlers in there trying to catch some bluegills. Nothing. The best thing for that day was the fast action, and I was reeling at a medium pace. I wasn't reeling to where it would surface buzz. I wanted that lure to go down maybe about 1.5 feet, 2 foot down as I reeled it in slowly, and it looked like the northern pikes were rising from that 6 foot depth all the way up to grab those spinner baits. Lots of fun, guys, lots of fun. So again, I recommend the Drift Inn in Fountain, Wisconsin, a great place to visit. That whole upper Mississippi Wildlife and Fish Refuge along Merrick State Park, fabulous place, fabulous place. It is so beautiful up there. I know we saw probably 4 or 5 bald eagles flying over us, and one landed in a tree, was watching us, and I bet you he was waiting to see if we were going to pick up a fish so he could be an opportunist bird and swing down there and grab it from us. I bet you he's done that to other people in the past. And why not? Or to see if we catch a fish and toss it out and the fish is injured, he'd probably swoop on down and get it. Who knows? But he was definitely giving us the eye and watching. That whole area there is along, looks like Route 45? No, Route 35 in Wisconsin. 35 and 95 intersection right there. And that Eagle or Indian Creek Road is just up just a little ways from there. And when I say up, I mean north of there. If you type in Fountain City on Google and expand it, you will see the whole area that I'm talking about. You can see where the border runs right along the Mississippi, and you can see where the backwaters are there, and they're connected to the Mississippi, so that is Mississippi River water there. And It's a really great place to go. We did not go out into the main Mississippi River itself. I would love to try that sometime with him and definitely see if we could fish for some big blues, some big channels or flatheads out there. That would be a lot of fun. And I know there's a ton of walleye in that area too, so we could try doing some jigging for walleye. That was fabulous. A really good place to go. I know I'm, talking over and over about how great it was, but it was. When the trip is memorable and you learn more. I know when I go up there what I'm going to be fishing for first. I'll probably be working for some of those northern pike. I really enjoyed catching those. If it's summertime, then I'll be going for those catfish up there. I'll be hitting those channels, should be moving in the shallows, and I can use some slip bobbers and some cut bait or chicken liver and night crawlers. Night crawlers is the absolute best live bait there is for anything. I mean, it's so versatile. Okay, folks, that's all for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. Episode number 4, and we're going to tell you to go out there, catch some fish, be flexible, look at the weather conditions, keep on fishing. Now, you can fish all year round. I plan on it, even through the ice. That's the way to do it. All right, folks, this is Scott, son of Hillbilly, signing off for now, saying get those lines out there. You can't catch fish in a parking lot. Have a great day, folks. Well, thank you for listening today, folks. If you want any more information about fishing, gear reviews, outdoor adventures, photography, you name it, just check out my website, www.sonofahillbilly.com, or drop me an email, sonofahillbilly@gmail.com, or you can actually call and leave me a voicemail message. You can call 320-634-6658. Go ahead and leave your voicemail message. I will answer it on this podcast. So until next time, folks, I hope you're out there catching lots of fish, having lots of fun, and a good time. Yee-haw! Scott, son of a Hillbilly, saying goodbye for now. See y'all later.